One. All right, here we go. Hey, welcome to Hall Hoops and Happenings. It is NFL Draft Eve, but we're not ready to talk football just yet. We're here to talk some basketball, Big East basketball, of course, Seton Hall basketball. Again, this is Bobby Blackjack, your host. To my right, Nick from Milburn. What's up, Nick?
What's up, Bobby? How you doing tonight? Carlos Rodon pitched well today, and the Yankees won.
Yes. To my far right, Paul Justafan, who is all over this NIL stuff. So I'm excited to hear what he has to say about what happened today. Below me, Chris Jones. What's up, Chris?
How's it going?
We have Duncan Nick Morgan to my immediate diagonal right. And way back there in the far corner, with her blurred out background there, the Gizzer, Nicole Gizzy. What's up?
Hello, how are you?
All right, so let's get our show going. We have a lot of topics to catch up on. Seton Hall signed another player, so we're still down in the math, right? Our math's not evening up yet. The women signed 3 players last week. I mean, 2 1 week before and 2 this past week. And lo and behold, Coach Boz had told me there was a girl coming in from Penn State. They signed her. Girl coming in from Texas. They signed her. We'll talk about that. But more importantly, Coach Boz should be on our show next week to discuss the program and these new signings and the team in general. But I'm going to do my producing thing for a few moments. So, Nick from Milburn, take it away.
Hey, guys, what's up? Yeah, Yankees won today. Carlos Rodon, another stellar performance. As Bobby touched on, just to bring everyone up to date, we have 8 players. Okay, so the portal is closed. You cannot get in the portal anymore. It is closed. So we have 8 players in the portal: Emil Okafor, Yassine Toomey, Isaiah Coleman, who has signed with Oklahoma State, Darway Gual, who was also signed, Prince Alegbe, Zion Harmon, David Tubeck, who I always forget, and Gus the Bus Yeldon, all in the portal. We have 2 players coming back from last year that are not in the portal, Yasmin Feltham and Godswill Arierne. We have signed TJ Simpkins out of Elon, Adam Clark out of Merrimack, and the latest one out of Fordham. He's coming home. Josh Rivera, back to New Jersey. He's coming home, with all respects to Carmelo Anthony, and his kingdom awaits. I'm not going to sing, but yeah. So right now we have 5 players on the roster. The good news is, and my buddy Paul had said that he wanted a clean house, tear this thing down, build it up again. We have room to sign 7 players. Paul, are there 7 good players in the portal that are as good as, if not better than, the 5 players we have right now?
Well, I just have to believe that there are still there are 1,500 players left in the portal.
So we could get 7, right?
I hope we could find 7 of them.
Out of 1,500. So I know these people are watching. James Bosworth was all upset last week, and some other people, some car guy of erotic cars, whatever. But there's a lot of signing left to do. We have 7 openings with how many players, Paul? Out there still?
About 1,500.
1,500. So, I mean, everyone who's getting ready to push the panic button, just relax. Again, this panel, we support our coach. We support our athletic director. There's a lot of preseason posturing going on, and we will have a roster, and I'm feeling that it will be a competitive roster. Guys, any thoughts on roster construction, the portal? Anybody jump in? Chris?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about Josh Rivera, because I like the signing. Do I think he is the most standout change type of game player? No. But the one thing I like from him is consistency, because I felt like this Seton Hall team this past season didn't have much of that. There wasn't much consistency, whether it was with one player outside Isaiah Coleman. There was no really other player that was consistent enough getting 10 plus points a game. With a guy like Joshua Rivera averaging about 10.7 points per game and 4.3 rebounds per game, I like how he shoots 44% from field, because, again, this is a Seton Hall team that last year that struggled with shots on a daily basis. So you get a guy who can shoot consistently. He had 21 double-digit scoring games. So again, to me, while that may not be your 20 plus, 25 plus point games, it's still consistency. And that's what this team needs. So I think this is a good signing. It's a solid signing. But obviously, there's still more Seton needs to do, still more spots they need to fill. I would like to see a more, as I said before, a more standout star, because now that we lose Isaiah Coleman, we don't really have that. Obviously, we have two freshmen who are young. They have potential, but I'm still looking for that guy that can stand out and change a game.
So do you want the 3 players that came in to be role and bench players or to be our better players?
See, again, because I remember we were talking about this last week with the idea of each single year plugging in new players and making it a brand new team. So obviously with the players that we have brought in, again, Rivera, I'm pretty sure he's going to be a senior. So a lot of these guys have that 1, maybe at most 2 years left. So with the way the team is being constructed so far, yeah, most likely these guys that are transferring in will probably start right away and be one of our 5 guys. But I'm also a big fan of depth, not having just your 5 guys being your main 5, which obviously they're supposed to be. But I'm a big fan of having your bench guys come off and get 8 plus, 10 plus points sometimes. That's what I'm a big fan of too. So either way, whether he's a starter, a bench player, or a role player, whatever he is, I'm still just a fan of having more guys the merrier. So whatever Shaw decides to do, I'm all for. But with a guy like Rivera, I would personally like to see him more of a starter just because of how consistent he is.
How good of a 3-point shooter is he? Because we've talked before about the college game has come down to shooting the 3, defending the 3.
Yeah, he actually is pretty solid. I mean, when you look at last season, on 76 attempts, he made 24. So that's shooting just about 32%. And again, when you look back at last season, yet again, this still wasn't a good shooting team, which shot, I don't remember what the exact number was, but from what it felt like that shot 20%. So I think shooting 32% from behind the arc is a very good number, especially for a team like this that needs a 3-point shooter. Right. So I'm happy with him. I think he's going to play well. If he, again, does become a starter, I think he's going to be a good piece for this lineup.
Nicole, Bill Hathaway just said good evening. Just so you know, Bill, join our Facebook group. You're part of this and you don't even belong to the Facebook group? What's going on? You're on the cold naughty list right now.
Strike one.
Bill, you're not coming on next week if you don't join the group. That right, Nicole? That's Nicole's rule number 1. You have to be a member of this. Oh, he went away. Bill, you come back to join the group.
By the way, real quick, also, Greg Papora said hello. First time I've seen him comment, and we added a kid from Fordham, he said. I think that's what we talked about. But hello, Greg Papora says hello. First time viewer, I guess, or first time commenter anyway. Hey, Greg, what's up?
What's up, Greg?
All right.
Mr. Morgan, what do you think about the portal and what's going on?
Yeah, well, Josh Rivera is from my backyard, my hometown, right by New Brunswick. So he's from close to me. So I'm excited to get a local guy or even more local guy.
What high school did he go to?
I don't know where he went.
He started. He finished at St. Aquinas, I think.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I know there was a girl that played against us this year. I don't remember what team, but she went to Piscataway for a little bit. So she went to my high school. I remember crossing paths with her a couple times. But he's from my backyard, so that was cool to see that, a nice little local signing here. I was actually going to bring up the 3-point shooting and how his average is, 31, 32% from last year, which is better than I think most of the guys who rolled out a lot of the time this past season. Something I did look at that kind of caught my eye was the 50% from the free throw line. It is getting better the past 3 years. It's gone up. 2022 to 2023, he shot 48%. 23 to 24, 47%. But then last year, 54.1% from the charity stripe. So that's something that, we struggle with a little bit there. I looked at Bud Clark. He shoots about 70% from the free throw line. So hopefully Shaw kind of works on that aspect team-wide, because I feel like that every year I've been here at Seton Hall, free throws have been an issue. But to kind of touch on the point of, do we want these guys to be our starters? Do you want them to be the role guys or come off the bench and scoring the 8 to 10 points, whatever? I think if we can roll out a team with a couple extra players or a couple better players and these guys aren't all part of the starting 5, I think that's ideal. If Bud Clark is our main starter out of the transfer portal that we get, he's like the big out of the portal, fine. But I think ideally, if we're getting 5 or 7 more out of this 1,500 plus group, I'm hoping to see at least 1 or 2 guys that can kind of replace Rivera as a starter, or Simpkins as our starter. So I feel like Bud Clark will probably be a shoo-in for that starting 5 spot. But I do want to see a little more. I like the depth. I think these are fantastic depth pieces, as Chris was kind of talking about and touching on just a couple moments ago. But I do think there's more to be done. But at the end of the day, we're making moves, and that's great. So at least there's some momentum there. We're getting guys to sign. I think we're still having people come to campus and recruits come to campus and things like that. So lots of positivity and optimism in that direction. But a local kid has some stuff to work on, but so does everyone else. And depth is always great. Let's try for more though.
By the way, Bill Hathaway, we don't send you a request. You send us a request. That's how it works, Bill. And by the way, Nick from Milburn, your daughter, stop threatening your viewers. And your son has a comment as well.
Nicole's rule, not mine. Nicole's rule, not mine. Everybody has to join. There's no one on this team last year from New Jersey. Good point. That's right.
I think he's right.
New Jersey kid.
Just real quick. This show is supposed to be meant for the group members of the Facebook group. So if you want to be a part of this, you have to join the group.
Well, Bill has an exception because he's my media buddy and stuff.
Yeah,
but still, join the group.
General people, we're
Join the
trying
group.
this as a way to entice people to join the group.
That's right.
Group. By the way, before we go any further, it's on my mind. Now, I know last week we discussed Duncan Nick Morgan trying out for flagman, but I saw a post yesterday. I think it's in our group that the women's team is looking for practice players. There you go, Nick. That could be your call. You're 6'3".
Yeah.
You're going to be tallest one out there. Maybe we should have you. I'm your agent, NIL agent. Maybe we should have you try out for the women's practice squad team, and that'll be even better insight for the show. What do you think?
That I can do it. I mean, I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but unfortunately the flagman tryout is May 2nd, which is the same day as our RA spring training and my first day with the Staten Island Ferry Hawks. So I will be double booked that day and will not be able to make flagman tryout. So that sounds like a better option there.
We got to go. We got to talk to Coach Boz next week and have you go anyway. And I'm gonna walk in as your agent.
Sounds good.
I mean, we don't make light of the situation. They want players to practice against the women, of course. But I think it'll be a fun little, off-season venture, of course, for us.
I think he should do both. I think Nick should try out as flagman and try out as a practice player. What does he have to lose?
Exactly.
Do it. We can get you your private tryout for flagman. Bobby knows people. Nicole's going to be the president of the university someday. She knows people.
Don't keep saying that.
We can make some phone calls. We want a private tryout for Nick Morgan. He deserves the flagman tryout. That's it.
There we go. Yeah, let's do it.
I'm sure he dressed better than the previous one. Who the champion shorts every time drove me crazy when I saw the guy.
Do you know the very? Not to interrupt, but do you know the very first Pirate didn't have a costume? He was some guy who drank heavily before the games, and he had like a big red beard and put a hat on and tried to do cartwheels. Yeah, circa 1975. But yeah, that was our original Pirate. No costume.
Hey, if I was 30 years younger, I'd try out for it, but hey, it's not happening. Bellevue 260, what are your thoughts on the NCAA dropping the hammer on Fordham? I'm not familiar with that situation. Paul, are you?
Yeah, so they put the NCAA put the Fordham's men's basketball program on probation for 3 years, a $35,000 fine, and a whole bunch of recruiting sanctions, including reduction in the number of official visits. It says that they committed level 2 violations. They paid for recruits to attend various activities that exceeded $70 per day entertainment limit. They took them to Madison Square Garden to watch the Knicks. They took them to Giants games. And it is the most ridiculous thing, in my opinion, that we've ever seen. The NCAA has a history of doing this. I think it was Jerry Tarkanian who said it once, that if the NCAA got more angry at Kentucky, they would put Cleveland State on 5 years probation.
Yep.
And this is also like arresting somebody for having an ounce of marijuana 2 days before it becomes decriminalized. Nothing that they did is really going to fall into a category of stuff that would be punishable now. I think that the NCAA is feeling impotent. I think the NCAA is feeling like they have to do something to show that they have some level of, I don't know, authority someplace. And so they decided to pick on Fordham, and we grabbed one of their guys. I'm sure that the probation played a little bit into Rivera's decision to go into the portal. And as far as he's concerned, how many minutes he gets, I think, is going to depend on who else we get. I'm with Chris that that shooters are at a premium. I also believe that Bud Clark is going to be a starter, and he was a very good point guard last season. As far as everyone else is concerned, let's see who else we get, and then we'll see how the minutes get parceled out. One of the things that I'm feeling a little bit better about is that somebody like Clark, who can distribute the ball, is going to help the rest of the team. Donnie Marshall last year said that I don't remember who we were playing, but he said our opponent, Creighton, it might have been, passes the ball, we throw the ball. In other words, they were making passes that were putting their players in a position to execute, and we were simply moving the ball around. I think Clark is going to help that, and if he helps Rivera get some more threes, I think that'll be terrific.
I read an article. I'm sorry, go on.
I was going to say real quick, you made a reference to Jerry Tarkanian, UNLV. Unfortunately, one of our targets, Nas Cunningham, today committed to UNLV. So see how the show always seems to work in circles, but there you go again.
The interesting thing about Fordham is, right, Paul, they self-reported. The NCAA didn't find this violation. Hi, Greg. Fordham reported themselves, and they made Coach Ergo's life a living hell with the investigation for the last year or so. What a disaster. Things going on in this wild, wild west, and they're bothering Coach Ergo about taking recruits to a Knick game. That's insane.
By the way, if the captain, Tom Eckel, is watching, he'll review Bill Hathaway's request to join our group.
So we should probably talk a little bit about the settlement. I made a couple of notes, and I was just going to rattle them off, and then we could probably go into the women's recruits. So the settlement, the NCAA has accepted the settlement. So that means that the final step would be Judge Claudia Wilkins signing off on it. And from what I understand, she's pretty comfortable with it, that she is going to be ready to sign off on it from everything that I've read. The NCAA went through their rules and regulations book and eliminated about 150 regulations so that the House settlement will be codified in their in the NCAA rule book. They're contingent on Judge Wilkins signing off, and they will take effect on July 1st. Okay, so the NCAA is getting ready for this to happen. Right now, the rule is going to be colleges, if they choose to opt in, can share up to $20.5 million in revenue with their players. They are essentially sharing that revenue to use the name, image, and likeness of the players to promote the university and the university's athletic programs. It is theoretically not pay per play, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. Now, every college has to fund this themselves. For a while, there was a little bit of confusion that the NCAA was going to be handing out the $20 million to each school. They are not. So Seton Hall has to find the $20.5 million and fund it if they want to. The number itself is based on the revenue from Power Four conferences. It's a percentage of the average revenue that the Power Four conference athletic departments make, and it will get recalculated every year. Now, there's a couple of things that are actually interesting. Players can still sign a deal with outside companies, including an independent NIL collective. So somebody like Cooper Flag, who signed an enormous deal with Nike that wasn't necessarily through Duke, can still do that. And the NIL collectives can still sign players to NIL contracts outside of this revenue sharing agreement. So other schools can, if they have money raised by alumni, they can spend it on the players on top of the $20.5 million. However, any deal that is signed for more than $600 that involves an outside NIL collective has to be reviewed by Deloitte Consulting. Okay, this is basically so that the vitamin water guy can't pay everybody on St. John's $150,000 to play, to take his kids to the park and color with them in a coloring book. They actually have to evaluate the NIL contract that they sign with an outside agency to make sure that it meets some set of market criteria. Okay, so that's going to be interesting to see how that goes. There's the 75% to football, 15% to men's basketball, 5% to women's basketball, and 5% to everybody else is what everyone's saying is going to happen. There's nothing in the settlement that mandates this. Obviously, schools like the Big East and the A10 don't have football and don't necessarily have to break things up that way. And so again, that will be interesting. Also, I would imagine that there are schools such as UConn where their women's basketball team is a big revenue maker. There are schools like North Dakota State where their hockey team is the big revenue maker. And I would imagine that they are going to distribute the money differently based on what teams are bringing the money in. Now, the schools have to opt in. Many of the mid-majors won't opt in because they don't have it. Now, the Ivies have already said no. Okay. The Ivies don't have athletic scholarships. They are not going to opt in. On the other hand, Harvard just announced that if you have a household income of under $200,000, everybody goes free. So they're in a little different world than the rest of us. And finally, this is interesting, and Nicole was talking about this last week. The schools are expected to require the athletes to sign contracts for the purchase of their name, image, and likeness rights. These contracts, which are not supposed to be pay per play, some of them have clauses that are very much like pay per play. So, for example, if you are a football player and sign an NIL deal with, say, the University of Florida, and University of Florida goes 7-5 and goes to the Papa John's Pizza Bowl, if you are medically capable of playing, the NIL contract says you have to play in that game. There's a whole bunch of other things that say if you're medically cleared, you have to play. There's also some rules that expected in the contracts that say if you leave the team, you have to give the money back. If you transfer, you have to give the money back. If you think about transferring, you have to give the money back. And there are some, right now, a lot of what I was reading has suggested that if these contracts look too much like pay for play, we're going to see a problem, and we're going to see another lawsuit, and we're going to see the athletes potentially get to unionize. Right now, they can't unionize because they're not employees, right? They're all getting paid on the equivalent of a 1099. For Nick, Nick knows about those, right? But they're so basically there's $20 million to spend if Seton Hall wants to spend it. There's whatever else we raise that can also be spent if we want to. We can spend it how we want as long as every athlete gets something, which will give the Big East. And again, if the A10 has money, VCU has a ton of money. Rhode Island, URI, I'm not sure. So that's really what we are going to see. And so that's everything that I found out about the settlement, at least as it relates to the signing of players. I think the last thing is that the NCAA is agreeing not to put any formal restrictions around the portal itself. So while a school can say, if you go on the portal, you have to give your NIL money back, the NCAA cannot say only seniors or only juniors or you have to stay 2 years. that is going to be specifically to the individual contracts. And to Bobby Blackjack's point from last week, if you Google NIL consultant and NIL agent, you will find probably 20 or 30 law firms and agencies who are already saying we will represent college athletes. I don't know how legitimate they are. I imagine some are, and I imagine some aren't. But the complexities of again, a 17-year-old kid trying to deal with the complications of what they're signing, there is going to be a need for somebody to help these kids out. When I was 17, I had a paper route. So that's what I know. So any comments, on what's in the settlement?
Now you're telling about this money they're making and stuff. And the first thing that came to my mind was you mentioned having a paper out. It's like in 2 years, how many of these players are going to be have the IRS on their back because they're not paying any taxes on that stuff. They're too young.
Well, no, Bobby. Part of this was when they had the program now is that they were getting financial consultant, people were helping them, trust funds, things like that. Because as independent contractors, you don't have W-2 withholding taken out, and you are responsible. You can write off expenses, but what those expenses are, I have no idea, but you can write off expenses. Now, just circling back to what Paul said, and Paul, that was awesome. Thank you. Word is that Seton Hall, with this whole thing, was willing to spend $6 million, and that's the number out there, on the NIL this year. We've all heard that figure. But the question I have is that money can't be front-loaded, right, to the players, because we don't have it right now until this settlement happens, because the collective doesn't have $6 million right now. Paul, is that true?
So as soon as the judge signs it,
right?
Yeah, the collective doesn't have it. Like, we have a cash flow problem,
right?
But I'm sure that the athletic department can find the $6 million. And I don't. And the other thing I haven't been able to find out about is when you get paid. So right. If you're, so there is a question of cash flow, assuming that the settlement, that the judge stamps the settlement between now and July 1st, which everybody's expecting. I don't think the NCAA would have gone through that. So,
but we're going after players, not to interrupt you, right now. And the
yes.
vitamin water guy is signing players left and right. They've signed like 5 or 6 players already.
St. John's doesn't have to worry about it.
Right.
And we do, because if we were to make those commitments and the settlement didn't go through, we would have to renege, right? We wouldn't have the money in any of the collectives to pay the kids.
Right.
There's also, by the way, last thing is there's also some changes in scholarships. There are some changes in the number of scholarships you can have. I think that they've basically eliminated any rules on scholarship limits and instead are limiting the size of rosters. So there used to be a rule that a football program could have 85 scholarships and I think it was 80 scholarships and 105 players. Now it's 85 players, period. And the school can decide how many of them get scholarships and how many don't, but there's no longer any limits on it. So we are in a world of minor league, when you get right down to it, University of Alabama is the way I heard it phrased, they are a sports franchise that has a sideline in education. If you look at the way their revenues go.
There's an article today in CBS Sports, I didn't read it yet, that says very soon there's going to be $40 million football rosters out there in college football.
Wow.
Now, my question, as I've been asking every week, is, okay, where's the educational component in this, or is there one? If we're paying these kids now, guys, girls, and stuff, and they're making enough to, what's his name? Beck, they have a Ferrari and a Corvette or something, right? If we're paying these guys and girls that kind of crazy money, are they going to school, or are they pretty much an employee, quote unquote, that, probably has a luxury apartment somewhere? And hell, Shedeur Sanders has a $2 million house, right? Up in there in Colorado, big mansion and stuff. So where's the educational component? If not, are they separated from the rest of the student body of these colleges?
Paul Skeen was on College Game Day, and he was going to do his picks, and he said that I did a lot of homework for these picks. Coach Saban deadpan, I bet that more homework than you did your whole senior year at LSU.
He's not wrong, right?
And he's not wrong.
But real quick, Tom O'Brien, who had some great points last week, has had a. Let's get back to him real quick. Getting back to our recruiting, any 3-point shooters? Anybody heard of?
I think Chris Jones touted, the new Rivera as a decent 3-point shooter. But I've been saying all along, you get your players and then supplement them with shooters. The college game is all about 3-point shooting these days. You need 3-point shooters. Defend the 3 and shoot the 3. Kevin Willard, that was his mantra, and I agree with him.
By the way, I'm going to jump some responders here. Right on point, though. There's our guy, Jersey Exotics with the cars. Yes, the Lamborghini and a Mercedes, both of which were stolen recently. There's our guy. Invoices in the mail for the sponsorship, by the way.
He hasn't sponsored us yet.
After these past 2 weeks, that invoice is coming.
I know. Come on. Getting great publicity.
So, yeah, back to Tom O'Brien. Yeah, no 3-point shooters yet, but there's a lot of them out there. And, again, I think a lot of this is going to happen once that judge signs the paperwork. It's going to be a whirlwind of activity, and hopefully after the NFL draft, because there's already a whirlwind of activity starting tomorrow night.
No,
I think based on everything Paul said, and not to interrupt you, Paul, but yes, once money gets freed up, I think there's going to be a lot of movement out there. I think that's what people or people in our position, not the vitamin water, are waiting for. Do you agree, Paul, with that?
I do. I think that everybody needs to know what their budget is before they can start shopping. But I had a question for Chris. Right now, because Chris is the continuity guy on our team. Tuome, Alegbe, Okafor, they have not found homes yet. They're still in the portal waiting. It is the coach's discretion if he wants to take them back, right? We can get them just like anybody else. Is there any one of those 3 guys that you would want back if they wandered around the portal until the middle till the middle of May and haven't found anybody else?
Yeah. So out of the 3 of Okorafor, Aligbe, and Toomey, personally, I would rather bring in Okorafor. The reason being is because I'm still not convinced or sure if God's will can be a solidified and convinced 5. And I think he still needs time to learn, which then would come into question is who is the backup 5, which we still don't have one. So I would be okay with bringing in Okorafor because of the ability to rotate them in and out. Do I think God's will can be very good? Absolutely. But he still was a freshman. He's a sophomore now. Don't get me wrong. He's tall. He's got the stature. He's got it all to be a good 5. But I think he needs someone to also kind of test him behind the scenes, whether they're at practice or shoot around or whatever it is. I think Okorafor can test him with his physicality, because God's will is taller but not as physical as Okorafor. So I like, not just for the game aspect of both of them playing, I like for the fact that when it comes to practice, I think Okorafor will test him. He'll try to push his limits and see how good he really can be. So I would like to bring back Okorafor out of those 3 at least. I just don't think Toomey gave enough to this team. When he was on the court, he was solid. He was able to get some ball movement going, but was never a true goal scoring threat. Oligbe was good, but he then goes back to the point of what I was saying before of consistency. He would have a game where he would have 20 plus 25, and then he would then go for a solid 3. So to me, that's not what I want. I want consistency. So he's a guy, honestly, I can't trust Aligbe because, again, I did like him, but he didn't consistently week in and week out give the performance that we needed. So I think for the sake of God's will, I think Okorafor out of those three would be the guy I would like to return.
I think by far the best of those three, and the only one I would want back is Prince. Okorafor, guys, in 3 college years, he's been on teams that have won a combined 20 games. I mean, that ship has sailed. Good luck, Mr. Okorafor, in your future endeavors. Tume, I didn't see anything last year. I don't think he adjusted to the Big East. He was in foul trouble every game. I would take a shot. I liked what I saw, like you said, in spurts with Prince, and I think he needs to be more consistent. But Prince would be the one that I would want back out of those 3.
I like Prince as well. And I believe Jerry Carino said something in his article a couple of days ago that it appears that Coach Shaw is going the other way this year. Last year, he went with high major recruits who had low
Power
scoring,
5. Yeah.
Power
Right.
5, thinking that maybe they were underused. So now he's going for the mid majors who did score, because as you know, scoring is important.
Yeah, I would also go with Prince. I think we have that preferred walk-on who's like 7 foot something, right? He's
our guy. We're getting that guy signed. That's our one mission of our group is to get that kid signed. He's 7'4".
Right. So like we have the preferred walk-on. So obviously he might not test God's will as much as maybe Okorafor would because he probably doesn't have the muscle there, and he definitely doesn't have the experience. I think Prince would be the better option. I'm also looking at the guys he brought in, and granted, they're all going to be older than the 2 guys we have returning, but I still think we need like a veteran, someone to lead this team. We need a captain, and maybe we can get a solidified 5-man, which we really haven't had it. We really didn't have a solidified 5-man last year. We just kept rolling through. It was mostly Gosler towards the end of the year, but we were substituting a lot of guys in. We didn't know what we were doing with Gus. Okorafor was getting time. Gosler was getting time. Let's bring in a solidified 5. Let's bring in a veteran. Maybe he fills the 5. Maybe he doesn't. But I want to see one of the next guys, once we free up money, to be the captain of the team. I want Sean to bring in this guy, appoint him as the team member. And Prince, if we take Prince, I think, like I said, I like him over Okorafor as well. And it goes back to depth pieces, right? So we don't have to worry about him being a starter and being shoddy. If he's a bench guy and he's missing most of his shots, we just put him back on the bench and rotate him in and out. I think with Bud Clark coming in and Josh Rivera, they both shoot a lot better, take maybe some pressure off Prince. And also he can maybe learn from them as well. So I like the idea of Prince coming back. I also think that we need a veteran. I think maybe we can look to the 5-man and bring in a veteran 5, and that kind of solidifies multiple boxes that we need to check for this roster.
Now, Nick, you used to coach basketball, right?
Yes.
Now, I used to coach as well, and I'm a basketball junkie. Here's what you do with a 7'4" guy, as we've seen with Ike and Romero. They block shots. They alter shots. When there's a big situation where the other team has to inbound the ball, who do you put on the guy inbounding the ball?
Tall
7'4" guy. He has a value for this team, and we got to get him on this roster. There's ways to use a 7'4". Even if he's unskilled, there are ways he can be advantageous to our team.
I would take a 7'4" guy, and I learned this from Coach Duffy over at Immaculate Heart. I would put him in the corner in practice, jump up and down to help his vertical 1,000 times every practice to get his height off the ground. And with his arm span, he would be, look at Rowe, he would be an unbelievable shot blocker. And big men take a while to grow into their bodies. So yeah, I think this kid could develop into something, because you can't teach height and you can't teach 7'4".
Yep. Glenn Stackhouse, obviously he's on vacation visiting his daughter in the Pacific Northwest, where it is probably so sunny out there. What's up, Glenn? And he has 2 comments here. By the way, Mike Walsh said, and Mike, Paul had said Atlantic 10, not ACC. I think I heard that too, but Paul did say Atlantic 10, A10. Doesn't have football. Obviously, ACC does. Thanks for the comment. And then Glenn again. Howdy, folks. He's very happy to say hi to us tonight. And okay, we got a lot of comments here. I'm sorry. We're way behind here. Chris's dad. I feel the majority are there for the money and the sport. School is exactly.
Well, one of the things that Scotty Middleton's is going to be on his 3rd school in 3 years. How do you flunk out? You go to the school, you're there for a semester, you take enough phys ed courses that you're eligible, then you're going to leave anyway. when you had to stay 4 years, you actually had to make some sort of academic progress. We've talked before about how credits don't always transfer, how majors don't always transfer. And I just keep thinking, all you got to do is, stay alive, stay academically eligible until December, because you might be leaving anyway. And
the Seton Hall game plan for graduating and academics, and I'm sure other schools do this too. Seton Hall loads up their athletes in the summer because they're on campus for workouts. So they're taking like 12 credits a summer as an extra semester. That way they don't have to go as heavy during the season. So I'm sure other schools do the same thing to keep these kids eligible.
Well, the other thing is I wanted to kind of go to Mike Walsh's comment. I was talking about Virginia Commonwealth and URI and Fordham in that conference. But the ACC is a Power Four conference that has football, but it also has North Carolina, Duke, and some of the most traditional basketball powers. And I do wonder who's going to tell the coaches at UNC and Duke that they're going to spend all the money on the football program. I think
Bill Belichick.
That's right. Yeah. So I guess that's what you bring a Belichick in for, right? That is going to be a fun. That's going to be a fun meeting at the athletic department that day.
Oh yeah.
And same thing with I know Arkansas has always had a good football program, at least a decent one. But somebody's going to tell Calipari he can't spend as much money as he wants. Now that's going to be a fun meeting.
You know who funds Arkansas, right?
I'm sorry?
You know who funds Arkansas, right?
No, I don't. Who is it?
Jerry Jones.
Oh, really?
He played football there. And Nicole's not paying attention because I just mentioned Jerry Jones, Cowboys owner.
No,
Nicole, hold up your drink. Make sure it's not vitamin water. Okay.
not
Make
sponsored.
Make sure it's not vitamin water because that's a no-go in our show. Some more comments. Stack Monster agrees with a league bid coming back. Our buddy Frank Aracoli, my Bergen County buddy, has some comments here. Some kids are visiting other schools while on the portal, even though they're in the middle of a spring semester. Some are running camps. Season's over. Studying? Nah, no studying. Bill Hathaway likes Prince as well. It's 4 for Prince. And Stackhouse on his diet today. Food truck burger. And waiting to cut off by his wife for eating too much. Okay.
Now, Chris, I by the way, I think, Chris, I'm with you in terms of who I would want to get. As much, I could see Prince coming off the bench. Okay. The problem is that he's got a 6 foot, he's got a power forward's game and a 6'7" body. And, he did an amazing job playing defense against bigger guys all year at the 4. But a guy who could come off the bench, play crazy, that you don't mind fouling out. He comes in, hacks some guys, gets physical, and then comes out. I could really see him in that role. But as a starter, I just think he's too small to play. He's too small for his game. They had Alabama had 6'7" shooting guards. When I was amazed when I watched how big Houston and how big Alabama and Florida were compared to the size of our guys. And we've already going to have a 5'11" point guard. So I mean, we need as many 6'10" guys as we can get.
By the way, if we're gonna knock Scotty Middleton for going to 3 different schools in 3 different years, hey, so is Tay Davis.
Oh, he's not. He's much more the rule than the exception.
Right.
Tay Davis was with us. He went to Notre Dame. Now he's going to Oklahoma. Who's getting a lot of money from who? Trae Young, their assistant GM. Glenn Stackhouse has a 7-foot vocals, man. Yeah, we've seen on our shows. So real quick, let's go. Let's find this out. Duncan, Nick Morgan. Who do you want to keep? Of those 3, who would you bring back?
I'd say Prince. I would go Prince, and I'm going to have to leave you guys with that. I do have to go work the Bull and front desk, so I'm going to leave early, but I will be watching you guys.
All right.
So my final vote is for Prince. Yes.
Yeah. Any comments? Let us know. We'll put it on for you.
Yep. Have a great show, guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye, Nick. Try out, Nick. Try out.
Hey, I'm his agent now, so I'll make sure that happens. Greg Papora has a question. Thanks for your comments today. What are your thoughts on the effects of Shaw's old school coaching style with this generation of athletes?
Greg, it worked at St. Peter's, didn't it? He took them to an Elite Eight. I think a coach like Shaw, once he shows the kids that they could trust him, he could go a little bit on it. The thing in the equation right now is the money. It's hard to be the GM and have to say no to these kids when they ask for money and then have them on your team. It's just like Aaron Boone doesn't negotiate contracts for that reason. Brian Cashman does. So I like Shaw as an old school coach because I think that he really cares about the players, and I think the players know that and respect him. I think it could translate well.
Here's an idea. How about Mo Vaughn as a GM? What's Mo Vaughn doing these days? Right? He's got to be out there somewhere. He made a lot of money in pro sports.
Mo Vaughn still holds the record for the farthest ball hit at that stadium.
Actually, Bob, you want Mo for the assistant GM?
Oh, for the money guy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But Greg, don't compare Ewing. Ewing was never a coach. Ewing, I don't know. Ewing's not a coach. Shaw's a coach. You can't compare the two. I don't know if Pat Ewing was old school, new school, what school, but Pat Ewing was just an awful coach. Shaw came up as an assistant. He was a recruiter. He knows the kids. He knows their parents. They respect him. Ewing, I don't know how he got that job besides the fact that he was a Georgetown legend.
Good point. I like that. So, Nicole, who do you want back of those three?
Probably Prince.
You like Prince?
Yeah.
Okay. No, like I said, I would take Prince and Okafor back in limited roles or potential starter, sixth guy off the bench type of thing.
See,
Again,
I say Prince because he has that connection to Al, and we saw how much Al grew under Shaw in his final year. So if that could transition over to him, if we get him another year, I would love to see the growth.
Great. That may be the point of the night. I agree with that. Absolutely.
No, and here's the problem with Prince though. With his, I think Paul mentioned his body. He's like 6'4", 6'5", but he's jacked.
Yeah.
Right? So he was like a small man's Dre Davis with that type of body, but he just couldn't compete against. He's caught in between, right? He's too big to guard or a wing, but he's too small to bang with the 4s and 5s.
He almost reminds me of the kid from St. Peter's that came here with Shaw. Similar types of players.
Okay, yeah. By the way, he's right. By the way, we mentioned this before. Have you seen what St. John's is doing?
Yeah.
They're getting the kid from Carolina. They're getting the shooter from Europe. They are going for it again next year.
Yes.
Your
right
guy,
now,
John Santa, says they're a top 5 team in the country if the season started today.
Right now, they're looking at Dylan Mitchell, who came over from Cincinnati. They've got Isaiah Sellers, who came over from Stanford. Bryce Hopkins, who's coming over from Providence, if he can stay healthy. Josin Senan, I guess, from Arizona State. And they've got the kid Ian Jackson from North Carolina.
Didn't they just get some foreign shooter?
And a shooter from Europe, yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
shooter from Europe.
Now Lewis is going pro, plus he's in the portal. Glover is gone. Wilshire is in the portal. I was looking at him, but he's not a good enough shooter. But Ejiofor is still there. He's not going anyplace. So they should be extremely good. I'm also looking at Providence. Has gotten a bunch of guys.
Providence get their money from. Providence is another one to sign in all these guys.
Yes.
You know the connections up there. How do
I
they
don't-
position themselves?
I don't know where they're getting their money from. To be honest with you, but they've gotten a whole bunch of guys. They've got a guy from
Yeah.
Virginia, from Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech, and Florida State. Daquan Davis. I think he's a very good player. I'm gonna have to look him up. So I'm just kind of looking in the 24/7 CBS Sports portal just to see what's going on.
So I have a question, folks. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Stack Monster's guy Malachi go in the portal and get started by a good team? Am I wrong about that?
Another guy with 3 schools in 3 years.
But didn't he go to a decent school? He got signed by somebody decently, right?
Not when he left us. He went.
He
down.
went to. Hey, Paul, can you check that for me real quick?
What is his name?
Malachi Brown.
Malachi Brown signed with a decent team third time around.
This year,
yeah.
Malachi Brown.
I know Stack Monster was friends with his mother. He was always talking to Mrs. Brown at the games.
Was it Georgia State?
It says
He
that
went backwards. He went back to mid-major, but I think he signed with somebody decent. I think he signed with a Power 5 school.
All right, let me look him up in the other.
Bill Hathaway, need 5 starting 5. Exactly, Bill. But how do we get that right now? It's hard to get that until the money's there.
Right.
Mike Walsh, I'd imagine Okafor and Prince can be brought back at reasonable cost. Bring them both back. Yeah,
I disagree. Mr. Walsh, I disagree with you. I like you. I think you did a good job with Onward Setonia, but you want winners, and Okafor, 20 wins in 3 years. I'm sorry. That's just, good luck with your future endeavors. Go to Georgia State or somewhere.
Actually, what I'm reading over here is that Malachi Brown withdrew from the transfer portal. So He's going back to where he was. He's going back to Georgia State.
I saw him go somewhere. I'll have to check. I'll check out. Well, I have the computer right here.
Yeah, the article that I'm saying is it looks like on April 5th he's going back to Georgia State.
Wow. Okay. I thought I saw somewhere he was going somewhere bigger. Stack Monster. Big. Yeah. Don't disagree. I mean, unfortunately, we're at a point now where we gotta be better, right? We just gotta be better. Make before the poll.
Yeah. Speaking of the transfer portal, Duke is one of the only teams in college basketball to retain players from last season's roster, transfer portal wise, because we know that Cooper declared for the draft and non-knuckle.
Right. Well, I mean, this is the way it is, right? I mean, the whole Baylor team left too. Right? Makes me wonder if somebody could that team went to the NCAA tournament. I'm surprised somebody just didn't go get all of Baylor, put them in different uniforms, and keep coaching them.
Well, I said this last week. People can always come in and spend more money than you at the next level.
Yes.
Right? There's always someone with more money than you have, unless you're St. John's right now or Duke.
So here's a guy. Okay, we need centers, right? Aaron Bradshaw, who played at Camden with Wagner, goes from Ohio State to Memphis. By the way, whoever posts, who's the guy? I think it's Tom. But who's the one that makes that graph that's on our page that shows
South Orange Juice on Twitter?
He makes that graph we see every time.
Yeah, South Orange Juice on Twitter. We just repost it from him.
Because we noticed that graph, the point guard and the center are both community college guys that we looked at.
Mm-hmm.
But what's very interesting about that graph, and South Orange Juice even said this, that Rivera was not on that graph.
Nope.
So our staff does a very good job of not leaking information. So, I mean, that's a good thing. So, again, you don't know who they're really after. It's all speculation. Oh, my God, Stack Monster. I went to 3 schools in 11 years, and you didn't graduate any of them. I mean, the guy's doing more airtime than when he's actually on the show.
Our number one priority this offseason is to teach Stackhouse Monster how to use the
Now, I honestly think we're better off if he doesn't turn on his microphone. I think it makes it because there's nothing better than to see the Stack Monster down talking to some 8th grade kid, and this is what we have.
Bobby and I worked really hard on that bit, and we set him up to succeed. And he was running around interviewing all these people, and it would have went over at the St. John's game. It would have been a huge success, except the guy couldn't turn his microphone on, and Bobby screaming, "Turn on your mic!"
We need a signal.
We could task Chris to help him with that.
He needs his own production assistant behind him.
So Chris, what do they teach you in school? So in broadcast school, Chris, what do they teach you about that? If the mic's not working, is there a signal we have to make?
Oh yeah. This is what I do. Let's just say something's not working. I'll sit there and be like,
okay.
just making big gestures to try to get him to notice.
Now, Nicole, we haven't talked at all about the women's team, and we've got about a half an hour left. I don't know a lot about the new recruits we have, and Duncan Nick Morgan is usually our guy on that, and unfortunately had to leave. But do you and Chris, you guys have a kind of an outline on the new players on the women's team?
We actually did get a new player announcement today. If I could find the post.
And like I said, I texted Coach Boz last week, and he mentioned a girl coming in from Penn State. She was signed. Girl from Texas coming in. She was signed. So they right in the button. So I mean, I can't say they're batting 1,000, but hey, he told me about those 3 girls, and all 3 were signed. So.
Can someone go through the women's roster the way I did the men at the beginning of the show? Who's leaving? The best you can. Who's leaving? Who's coming back? And who we signed? And how many? Like right now, we have 7 spots open. How many spots do they have open? Can someone do the math?
From what I understand, Coach B said that he was retaining all of his players except 1 to the transfer portal. Yes. And then I believe we had 3 or 4 graduating.
Yeah.
So that's 5 openings. And how many were filled?
So far, I believe we have 3. Is that 3 or 4?
Yeah, 3.
3. One of the 3 is.
I know offhand. Let me get it on my phone here. My computer's kind of slow here.
One of the 3.
So I think in the women's game, though, they have more scholarships than the men, correct? I think the men have 12 and the women have 13. I think.
I do not know that off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But I can say that our commit today came from the Texas player, Jordana Codio. She's a junior guard. She appeared in 39 games while playing for the Longhorns. I don't know.
Where's she from, Nicole? Where's she from originally?
Let's see.
She went to Montverde Academy. She's from Winter Garden, Florida. I was looking at all the players that Seton did sign. Again, Jordana Codio, Cam Ross from Penn State, and then also Mariana Valenzuela from Florida State.
Yep.
Looking at all 3 of them, the thing I like about them is that they're bigger in stature. They're all above 6 foot. I think like 6'1", 6'2". And Seton Hall right now is a team that has smaller and more agile players, obviously with Savannah Catalan, Jada E's all staying. So bringing in players like this is promising. The only thing I look at with some of these players, more so specifically Jordana and Cam, both of them haven't really gotten much action, at all. I think neither of them even averaged above 2 points. I think it's like 1.4 and 1.8. So they didn't really get much action. They don't have much. To be fair to Cam, I believe she was a freshman. Yeah. She was a freshman. So she went to Penn State, didn't see much time. And then for Jordana got a lot of time, but it was more so off the bench later parts of the game where I think she averaged maybe 4 minutes a game, 5 minutes a game. So these are players that didn't see much time on the court, which is the only issue I see is, are these players coming in to start, or are they depth players? My guess is depth for those 2 at least. But, I mean, when you look at over at Mariana, she had a very good season. In 3 seasons at Florida State, in 2021, she averaged 10 points a game. Next season, she averaged 17.1, and then last season, she averaged 11.5. So she's had good seasons. She's looking like she's going to come in. She's going to be a starter. So it's good to see someone like her make her way out into the court for Seton Hall. The only one issue I have with her is, although again she still did have a good season this past year, getting 11.5 points per game, she saw a massive drop in field goal percentage, like drastically, to the point where in the first 2 seasons it was 48.6, which, to be fair, she didn't see too much time in that one. She only attempted 35 shots. But the year after, averaging she shot 49.7% from the field with 145 attempts. But then this past season, she shot 38. So 38 is still good, don't get me wrong. But it was just a massive drop out of nowhere. So she looks like she'll be a good player. My guess is, I believe, and again, I'm not sure what the details are of this, I'm going to assume that there was some injury related there, only because when I look at the games played, in her first year she played 22, then she played 33, and then she played 25. So there's some fluctuation there. I'm going to assume there's some backstory, injury, whatever it is. She never played a full season. So I think she'll be very good. The other two I see being more bench players.
I had the roster in
Bobby,
front of
let me just jump in real quick. One of my sources just texted me. You were talking about Memphis, that Memphis had FedEx money, and they have a budget of $25 million.
Oh,
so there you go. Yeah.
I mean, it makes you wonder, do we have anybody in Seton Hall's graduating history that was that successful? Do we have anybody who made buco money?
Nicole, this is your cue. Bobby wanted to know if we have anyone from Seton Hall who is successful with having buco money.
What's that?
A lot of money.
Oh,
a big donor.
Our cybersecurity CEO and founder of CrowdStrike, George Kurtz.
$5 billion, Nicole. He's worth $5 billion.
About that, yes.
I know the great Kreskin. He passed away. I don't think he made a lot of money. He was a graduate. The great Kreskin, right? Kreskin.
So I worked in the county clerk's office, and the great Kreskin came in and wanted an ID card, except the only problem was he wanted the card and the name, the great Kreskin, and I wouldn't do it. I'm like, that's not your name, sir, and he gave me a hard time. But anyway, tried to.
All right, here's the roster. Real quick, here's the roster for the ladies as far as I know from what Chris was saying. Right, Janaya Bland Fitzpatrick is the one transferring. Savannah Catalan back. Jacana Kraft, Chris, I'm not sure. She's
Jaquila Kraft, yeah.
She's back, right?
I believe so.
Jada Eads, of course, is going to be our next potential WNBA player, right? Our first, actually, right? Have we had anybody drafted?
I don't think so.
I think we had, right? Sydney Egleton is interesting because she's been on that bench for 2 years now and hasn't played. So is she going to get playing time? She's 5'11", 6 foot. She got some size. Is she going to get some playing time?
I don't think so.
Injured.
It's been injured the whole time. I'm pretty sure her freshman year she didn't play a single minute because of I don't remember what the injury was. But last year she played like the first I think 4 or 5 games and then was out for the rest of the year. So I think it's just
has she been redshirt? Like, what's her eligibility?
Yeah,
like, what year is she? Is she a sophomore or a junior?
She'll be a junior next year.
She's going to be a junior.
She isn't they didn't redshirt her?
No, well, at least one of the years, maybe. Baylor Franz. I don't even know who Baylor Franz is. You?
Yeah, she was a freshman last year and had a foot injury she was in the boot for the longest time. But I'm hearing that I'm assuming that she can't even transfer now because the portal closed. I thought I was hearing around that she might transfer, but she didn't play a single minute. So, because again, same with her, it was just injury.
Messiah Hunter is coming back. Savannah Jones graduated. She's the one I was hurt. No, Savannah Jones has the brothers in the NBA.
Yep.
I think she's coming back. Kaden Lawson's gone. She was good. But she's Yaya Lopes, no more eligibility. Faith Masonis, the Met Player of the Year and recently engaged. Congratulations. Interesting to see how long it takes for her to become a coach for us. Nicole Melius was a New York State Player of the Year, right? 2 years ago.
Yep.
Played a couple games, never saw her again, and wasn't on the bench the last couple games either. I don't know if that was on purpose or if something happened.
Is
Ramani
Nicole
Parker.
Melius coming? Is Nicole Melius coming back?
That's the one I have to say. She was like Player of the Year in New York 2 years ago. So I don't know what her status is. Again, there's all questions we can ask Coach next week.
Right.
Ramani Parker was the big girl, 6'4", injuries. She's done. Shayla Pinkney's going to be a huge player for us, and she's coming back next year. And Amari Wright, record breaker. Most
Out
games
of
ever played.
eligibility.
Out of eligibility. So.
And she played all 5 years with Seton Hall.
Woo!
Yep. And
rare these days.
She had
Sweet made up.
rarity.
Oh wait, let me just jump on something real quick. You just reminded me. You know who applied for the transfer portal?
Who?
Chauncey Jenkins, trying to get another year of eligibility.
Supposedly, I read this yesterday, Nick. I read this last night. Supposedly, a lot of these players who are out of eligibility were doing that by yesterday's deadline, just in case there's a 5th year granted with the settlement, and they'll have some type of standing to go somewhere. So that's why they did it for. But like everybody said, though, it was a clerical waste of time for whoever put that paperwork through. All right, Stack Monster's out. His wife told him to get off the air.
Stack Monster actually sent me a video, and he said, "Nice work, team. Thinking of you all today." And
look at this. Where's my feet? I'm in snow. I wonder if my feet are going to be wet. You guys get
how's that phone working?
Pictures of me. I put the hat on. I'm donning my Seton Hall gear for all you Seton Hall fans out there. We are by the Hoodoo Ski Resort.
The Hooters.
Elevation, I have no idea. There's a mountain behind me. What did we say that mountain was? Mount Washington? Mount Washington. You heard it here. All right, let's get a couple pictures.
Somehow he got that phone working. Which
wait, real romantic? He takes his wife to the Hooters Ski Resort? Stack Monster.
That can't be right. That can't be right.
That can't be right.
That can't be right.
That can't be right.
This is Stack Monster.
Hooters Ski Resort.
Let's go have our anniversary dinner at Hooters. I mean, come on. This guy, you can't make this guy up.
I think it was a local place. I don't think it was.
I took a girlfriend to a Knicks game for Valentine's Day.
Okay. That's fine. You didn't go to Hooters before the game.
Well, we didn't go to Hooters. No, we didn't hit the strip club afterwards. No.
But by the way, Nicole, this is your time. What is our off-topic subject of the day?
Okay, off-topic subject of the day. How about we talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Oh God.
In particular, not my Devils.
You're a hockey fan here.
I'd like to point out that the Dallas Stars are going to surprise people. I think they are going to go far. They have Jake Ottinger as their goalie. He's been someone that I've wanted as a Devil for the longest time. Oh, and look at that. Colorado just scored. But we've had a couple of overtime games already in round one, and it's going to be really thrilling. I don't know how well the Devils are going to do, given that they are plagued with injuries, 3 in particular just in the last game alone. We're now both without Hughes brothers. We're without Brandon Dillon. We're without Cody Glass, most likely, even though our own goalie slashed him in the stomach accidentally. I mean, it would take a miracle at this point for the Devils to beat Carolina, but it's playoff hockey. Anything's possible.
Are you going Sunday, Nicole? My daughter Jess is heading over on Sunday.
I don't have playoff tickets. We didn't renew.
You don't have playoff tickets?
No, we didn't renew our tickets. It wasn't worth it. And
you had to renew your tickets to get tickets for the playoffs?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
According to Scott Jones, Chris's dad, Hooters is going into bankruptcy.
Every business is
well, when you have a Hooters ski resort, I can see that can't be a big money maker. I have a quick off topic subject. Real quick. Before Paul has to leave us, so tomorrow tomorrow's the NFL draft. Let us know who your favorite team is and who do you want to draft in the first round. Chris, you go first. You go first. Who's your favorite NFL team? Who do you want to see them draft in the first round tomorrow?
So I'm a diehard Giants fan. I've been talking about this for ages on what the deal is because Giants can go any route and it works just because we suck that bad. But what I want to do is that I want Travis Hunter at 3, which I don't think is going to happen because I think the Browns are going to take him. Say we get Travis Hunter, I then want to draft Jackson Dart in the 2nd round, take him there, and then in the 3rd, I want Cam Scatterbo. That's how I want that to go because I think that would be amazing. I don't like Tyrone Tracy because he's already like 26. Like, how do you get drafted last year and you're already that old? The Giants need another receiver or corner. Travis Hunter can do whichever one. And then Russell Wilson's not the answer for 5-10 years. So they need a quarterback. I don't like Shador just because I think if you put a guy like him into New York media, he's going to soak it up and just become someone completely different. So that's the issue I have with him. And then Cam Ward is clearly going 1 or 2, so he won't be there. So my hope is Travis Hunter, Jackson Dart in the 2nd, Cam Scatterbo in the 3rd.
So, all right, I'm a Giant fan too. I'm gonna respond to everybody's pick. Like I'm a big football guy. I might even go on the air after our show, talk some football. But I don't like Shador Sanders at 3, but I wouldn't mind them in the 2nd round, late 1st round.
No, I'd be completely okay with that.
But yeah, Travis Hunter would be the best pick for us. But I think we're gonna get him. And Abdul Carter is I think he might be the best player in the draft. Again, some talk about us going back and getting some picks, but no, I don't want to see Shador Sanders. I think he's getting too polarizing now. And is he hungry enough? Like you said, he's already rich. He already has the mansion. He already has the rich car already.
Bobby, please show the comments.
What's that?
Please show the comments.
Hold on.
The what?
The comments.
We have sort of a marital squabble going on, Chris, and I mean, bad enough your parents have to embarrass you in general, but
Now we got a little.
Losing it.
we have
All right.
I guess
Here's Glenn's statement. Hoodoo scream resort, not Hooters. So Chris, if your parents get into a fight tonight, it's all Glenn's fault because he said, it's our fault for saying we thought he said Hooters.
Honestly, you know what? I'm just waiting to get the text from my mom saying like, what is he saying? Why is that? I'm waiting for it.
She is concerned that exactly. By the way, I had no idea that was happening. I guarantee it never occurred to me even to ask, as I will be telling my girlfriend when the show ends. I had no idea that such a thing was even occurring.
Wait, just real quick. Who on this panel has actually been to a Hooters? We know Glenn has. I have been to a Hooters. I've actually been there with my wife. It was very pleasant. Chris Jones has been to Hooters. Bobby has been to Hooters.
I did a show. I lived in Vegas for 18 months in the middle of the 2000s. And one of my first shows I ever put together, we did a live taping with a full camera crew and whatnot at the Hooters Casino.
Okay, so that's 3. Paul, have you ever been to Hooters?
Well, I made a much bigger mistake. I was on a business trip to Texas, and it was the weekend of the Oklahoma-Texas game. And so I decided I had to go. So I went to a high school football game at I can't remember. There was 10,000 people at the stadium. The Eagles, they were. I'd have to look them up. 10,000 people at a high school football game to go see the Allen High School Eagles. Right. Then on Saturday, I went to see Oklahoma against Texas. Then on Sunday, I decided to go to a sports bar, what I thought was a sports bar. It was called, and I quote, Tight Ends. Now I'm thinking this is going to be a Hooters at worst.
Right.
I walk in. Now I've got to voucher this, right? I've got to put this on my expense voucher and send it into work. I walk in and a young lady, maybe 5 years younger than Nicole, is wearing 2 ribbons.
Oh no. Oh no.
Wait, two ribbon?
Yeah, she had
no.
one ribbon that went around her chest and another ribbon that went from her around her
Oh my
shoulder.
God.
That's what she's. And there are people, and they're talking about how, and and the men are in true, I read it for the articles mode. I'm talking about the great hamburgers and the fine ribs, and
Right.
I'm sitting there saying to myself, I can't walk out now because they'll chase me to the car. I'm in Texas, right? I can't run away. But I'm gonna have to pay for this on my personal credit card because there's no way I'm putting this on a voucher. So that's my.
But you haven't been to Hooters.
No, well, I have actually been to Hooters, but this was, and that was the problem. I thought this would be, people in short Daisy Dukes and bikini tops. I was not expecting someone to be wearing a string with 3 aspirin on it, which is what.
So Nicole, have you been to Hooters? There's one, I think, at the Tropicana. Nicole has not been to Hooters.
I don't plan on it.
Not Mrs. Jones. Lisa, have you been to Hooters? Let's see. Your son is
Keep going with the comments.
The only way Nicole's going to a Hooters if Gleb shows up.
He has way better than Hooters.
Hooters has good wings, though. They do.
Look at what you got here. The wings are delicious.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you. Keep going.
Well, before we finish, Scott brought up a great point in the chat about the players and their financial situations. Chris was talking last week about how if you are a late 2nd round draft choice in the NBA and you're going to sign a 2-way contract, it's probably financially to your advantage to stay in college and get an NIL package rather than a 2-way contract that might be paying you $40,000 if you're in the G League. Scott pointed out in one of his comments that these guys, if they don't utilize this time to get a degree, they're not set for life, even if they make $1 million a year for 3 years. Right? At some point, they're going to have to. If they don't figure out a way to, even if they're going to clear a big chunk of money and get a head start, it has to just be a head start. Right? I would imagine, Chris and Nicole, if somebody handed you $3 million today, you would cash the check.
Yep.
I'm sure.
Yep.
But you wouldn't be able to quit your job and live off of it for the rest of your life. You've got to be a great. You could buy a house, maybe pay off whatever, any student loans, whatever it is you had to do. And it'd be nice to have a nest egg like that. But you still would have to have a career.
Oh yeah.
And these guys are not going to be able to retire after 3 years of college on NIL money.
But with $3 million to start, though, couldn't you go buy a franchise of something for $3 million and then run your own and get someone to help you run your own business?
Oh,
maybe you could get a bargain for Hooters because they're going bankrupt.
They're going out of business. That's right.
Maybe you get a Hooters franchise on the cup.
It's an enormous advantage. But if you blow it on cars and going to Hooters too often.
Keep going. Keep going.
That's it. And I'm done with that. I'm not.
No. Keep going, Bobby. Keep going.
What?
Keep going, Bobby. Keep going.
One more.
Keep
the
going.
Wings are delicious. Okay.
Keep going. Another one. Keep going. Next one. Come on.
Second. There you go.
Oh!
I got it.
Chris, that wasn't your 8th grade graduation that she took you to there.
No.
Oh, I'm losing it.
Oh boy. That might be the worst comment ever.
Yeah,
we're doing this off-topic thing, and I did my homework assignment. Paul, you asked the question last week about like our dream concert. Remember that?
Yes.
And I know Nicole is probably Taylor in Miami or Taylor in Spain or Taylor somewhere. But One that, not Taylor. You're not a Swiftie.
No, I am a Swiftie, but my dream concert, if I could see them dead or alive, Prince.
Really? See, I saw Michael Jackson, but I never
saw Prince.
My dad saw Prince, and he had the opportunity to actually go on stage with him, but he chickened out.
Wait, what?
Yes, he saw him
performer
like 5 times. Yes.
Wow.
My dad is probably like my Prince's biggest fan.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Love Prince.
Paul, before you go, who's your favorite team and who do you want to see drafted tomorrow?
So I'm a New York Giants fan.
Okay.
And I'm with Chris in that if they screw up this draft, they have so many holes. I don't know how they could possibly screw this draft up. I don't know enough about the players in the draft to have an opinion that's really solid. I don't want them to grab the quarterback du jour, right? I think I have concerns about how they develop QBs, and they seem to be catching a little bit of Jet Titus, in that they grab the hottest one out of college and he gets killed, and then they go and find an 85-year-old quarterback and put him out there. Until they get their arms around how to develop a QB in the NFL, I'd rather have them get I'd rather have them get some linemen, because that's what they're going to need when they finally get a quarterback. But Chris, to your point, you're absolutely right. If they manage to, with all the holes they have, draft somebody who doesn't start in the first round, then the whole team, the whole management team should be fired immediately.
By the way, I think Jameis Winston's going to beat out Ryan. What's his name? As starting quarterback.
Russell Wilson?
Yes. I'm a Steelers and Giants fan. Russell Wilson had a great start, and then he fizzled big time down the end. Yeah. Nicole, Cowboys. Who do you want?
I don't know enough about NFL draft stuff.
What position do you need the most? I'll tell you who you're getting.
I want a quarterback. I don't.
You have a quarterback. You just spent
Dak
a lot of money on a quarterback.
As much as I loved Dak when we first got him, I don't think he's the answer. CD Lamb needs someone that he could rely on to throw him the ball. So personally, I would prefer a Sanders, but the odds of that are slim to none given Dallas is not up anywhere in, I'm assuming, like the top 10 or something. I know from seeing some reports that the Boise State kid that was up against Travis Hunter for the Heisman wants to play for Dallas, so I'd like to see that.
He won't make it. He won't make it that far, and that means you're probably end up with a top 1 or 2 receiver.
No, Nicole. Jerry Jones suffers from bipolar football disorder. And he's in that, is he in the I know how to run a team and I'm going to draft myself mode, or is he in the I better get somebody who knows what they're doing mode?
I think he's trying to do everything his way and not for the benefit of the team. Because
he's been much more effective when he goes through his depressed phase of his manic depressive football.
My dad's been a Cowboys fan since the Roger Starbuck days. This past couple of years have been some of the most painful for him.
I grew up a Cowboy fan.
Really?
When I was 4 years old, the Cowboys drafted Calvin Hill. Yeah, the Cowboys drafted Calvin Hill from Yale.
Oh,
and I grew up in New England.
Yeah,
and so I loved Hill and I loved Staubach. And when Staubach retired, Danny White didn't do it for me. And my father was a Giant fan from the Chuck and Charlie Cornerly days. So the Cowboys played the Giants. The Cowboys were in the playoffs. If the Giants won, they would go to the playoffs for the first time in I don't know how long. And Joe Danello missed 3 field goals, and finally he made one in overtime. And by the time that game was over, I turned into a Giant fan.
Nick, who do you got?
I am a huge Jet fan. Not a Fireman Ed fan, but I am a huge Jet fan. So again, Chris, we do not want Fireman Ed on the message board at all. That phony, whatever he is. I think the smart thing the best player available, whether it's the tight end Tyler Warren from Penn State, or the offensive tackle Armand Membu from Missouri. We need an offensive lineman, and we could use a tight end. We haven't really had a great tight end, and we had Mickey Schuler from Penn State, but we will blow it, and we will not take either of those and take someone who will not pan out. So we'll see.
You know what? One of the things about the Jets, this was one of my most interesting stats. Zach Wilson was sacked 15 times in his first 3 NFL regular season games.
Yep.
Brady was sacked 21 times that entire season.
Yep.
I don't know how you could take a kid out of college and let him get pummeled like that and expect him to develop.
Or sign Aaron Rodgers and have a lousy offensive line in the first play of the year he's out. I mean, yeah, mind-boggling. Take a 41-year-old quarterback who can't move and give him a lousy offensive line and then wonder what happens when he gets hurt. Come on.
And as we pointed out, we're hoping that Aaron Rodgers buys, maybe 500 or 600 acres in northern Colorado and grows mushrooms and brings in some, Zen guys and can become the Zen teacher to the stars. Because I don't see him in the NFL anymore in any capacity.
Yeah, because I'm a Steelers fan, and what he's doing to us is a travesty. Either say you're going to go, just tell us no, and let us move on, or sign. Stop with this BS of you just hemming and hawing your way around life. If you're going to retire, just go ahead and do it. Don't wait for an injury. Don't wait to see what happens with the draft. What you did to Mike Tomlin and my Steelers is a travesty.
But that's what I was going to say. Do you think Tomlin and he could coexist? Tomlin doesn't seem the kind of – he seems a little bit more old school than the kind –
Yeah.
I don't see him tolerating Rodgers going in a hut for 4 days and coming out with a new offense that he designed while he was on shrooms. I'm sorry, I just don't see Tomlin tolerating that.
All right, Paul. If he goes to Colorado, plenty of caves there. We can do this whole dark thing with.
Well, that's it. He gets some peyote buttons, and he'll be in business.
Anyway, I'm going to say real quick for the Steelers, watch out. I do a lot of research. I love reading his mock drafts everywhere. The one player who is I think he might be the best quarterback in this draft, and I hate to say it, he's from Alabama, is Milroe. I read yesterday something that said he is a better running quarterback right now of his career than Lamar Jackson was. And we all know how dangerous Lamar Jackson is. And they're saying Milroe not only has the legs, but he has the arm, has to be harnessed a little bit. And if there's one thing Brian Daboll did, was he was one of the first guys to get his hands on Josh Allen, and Josh Allen's a beast right now. So if you get Milroe later, that could be the Steelers too. I'll take him on the Steelers. Either one of those guys you get on, I think Milroe will be great for the Steelers because we had success with Justin Fields when he started 4-2, and maybe Milroe, who's a better athlete overall, can really do something there. But we'll see what happens. Hathaway, Giants need to do better in this draft. Absolutely. Your dad, Sanders will be too much of a distraction. Absolutely. I think here in this city, the one thing that turned me off of Odell Beckham Jr. when he was here, again, I covered the Giants in the locker room for a couple of years when he was there, as a matter of fact. He had that one, Odell Beckham Jr. had that one first big game on Monday Night Football. I think he had 1 or 2 touchdowns, really made a name for himself his rookie season. And the first thing he does when he gets back into the locker room, or maybe the following morning, was he wasn't humble about it. He goes out and texts LeBron James for a meeting to figure out how he can become, famous, how he could, capitalize on. I mean, bro, you did one game. Why are you texting LeBron James for advice on how to be uber successful? And I think that's Shedeur Sanders. I think that's Sanders again. 3, no. Later in the draft, yes. Speaking of concerts, Stack Monster. I'm a big Eagles fan myself. Probably the greatest concert I've ever seen in my life. But Stack Monster, the only way you're going to see the Eagles again is going to be in Vegas in the Sphere. And I'm dying to go there. I'm going to try to go this fall, but it is uber expensive. but I hear it's phenomenal.
It's not the same though without Glenn Fry.
I've seen him with both. Yeah, exactly. That one big end zone catch, and he was a distraction after that. He thought he was who he was, and I'm going to, become buddies with LeBron James. Bro, do that more than once. No, he's right. Scott's right. He remembers that. Yeah, you're right, Nicole, with Glenn Fry. I was actually saw Glenn Fry in concert at MetLife before he passed away. That was a shock to everybody. But Deacon's doing a great job, and so is what's his name? The country guy.
Jackson Brown.
No. Vince Gill.
Oh, okay.
Vince
So I
Gill.
know
Actually,
Jackson Brown filled in for him. I think for the rest of that leg because they were technically on tour when he died.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, any final thoughts? We're about an hour and a half in. I think we've run our course. Next week, of course, we should have Coach Tony Bozzella on to discuss a whole bunch of stuff. So get your questions ready for that. I'm excited for that show. Like I said, I'll be on. You probably see me on and off all weekend. I love the NFL draft. It's fun, especially when we start breaking down picks, and whatnot. And this draft promises to be very, very unpredictable.
Bobby, let me ask you this, because you seem to know the most about this out of everyone. Who are the Giants picking it? Give us the first 3 picks.
It's going to be Cam Ward because Tennessee has done nothing. They've brought in they've reinforced their line, and they didn't bring one quarterback in as a backup or to be a starter. So they're all pointing towards Cam Ward, who they're saying if he would have came out last year with the big quarterback class, would be behind the kid from Denver. Again, the names escape me at the moment. Their starting quarterback who did pretty well actually. Right. Number 2 is the big crapshoot because they need a quarterback in the worst way. But then again, they just went out and signed Joe Flacco to start another year. There's a big quarterback class coming out next year, including Arch Manning. So, there's a propensity for these teams to maybe not go for that quarterback this year and get a better starter right away and go for it next year. I would hope they would take Shedeur Sanders or maybe Cleveland trades down, but it looks like Travis Hunter is going to be number 2. He's just a talent that is beyond compare.
Oh yeah.
He's with his, and most teams are going to allow him to play both positions until he can't do it anymore, and then they'll focus on either one. But I mean, they're talking about somebody who has tremendous cornerback skills. Probably would be the number 1 quarterback prospect if that was his sole position. But you're talking about somebody who's getting Justin Jefferson comparisons at wide receiver, and he's the best wide receiver in football.
Wow.
And the Giants, it's a little bit of excess, but Abdul Carter could be the best overall player in this draft. And if we draft him, bye-bye Kevon Thibodeau, because then they're going to say they're going to trade that pick and then use that money, or that trade, and get something good for him. But instead of getting his 5th-year contract renewed and then an extension for Thibodeau, they get a cheaper, better player in Abdul Carter. And they've seen what happened when they bypassed Micah Parsons twice a year. And bypassing Micah Parsons is not going to happen again with Abdul Carter, who could be just as good as Parsons was. So that's all I have. I'm not a betting guy, but I'm thinking about doing some prop bets tomorrow. Maybe 4 quarterbacks taken in the first round, which is possible. 4 running backs is a very possibility in the first round. 3 tight ends could be a possibility in the first round. So I'm gonna do some fun stuff like that and just root for the back end of the first round and see what happens. But by the way, this is the first time. Real quick, Nicole. I want to make this one point. This is the first time since 1967 where every team owns their own pick in the first round.
Wow.
So it should be and there's needs everywhere. Nicole, you're saying?
Do you think that Dallas could potentially draft a quarterback for the intention of being a backup to Dak, given Cooper Rush is no longer with the team?
Yeah. I can see. For example, there's there hasn't been a year in quite a while where at least 10 quarterbacks were drafted. So I could see a Riley Leonard from Notre Dame going there just because he has similar running skills as Dak does. You know, or Dylan Gabriel, who's undersized from Oregon. You know, there's so I can see guys like that going. Yeah, I think Cowboys. They signed who? They signed.
They have
who's
Trey
your backup?
Lance.
Who?
Lance, the guy from San Francisco.
No,
He
who's
left.
did
Oh,
they
he
cut him?
left.
Yeah, he's not.
I don't follow it very extensively, so
No, but
I
they
have.
signed somebody. They signed a backup. Oh no. They if I'm
didn't.
not mistaken, they traded for the Joe Milton from
Yes.
who actually who's another guy who was kind of like under the radar last year because of an injury and played very well in the final game of the season for the Patriots and gave himself some draft capital. See, that's what you look for a lot in the NFL. Joe Milton was not going to be starting over Drake May as far as a career, but you know what? You develop a second guy, and sometimes they become draft capital for trades and whatnot. So that's why you always try to draft, for your Tommy DeVito fans, you know what? Unfortunately, his time is up. I even read somewhere they think they're going to cut Winston too. They got a quarterback. You're going to have Russell Wilson starting this year. Whoever they draft is number 2, and then Winston might be a casualty. And I think Winston's better than Russell Wilson right now, but we'll see. Anybody else with a question? Any football questions out there?
That just shows you how much I don't pay attention to Dallas. I don't even know
who is the surprise player in the draft. I think I just said it. Jalen Milroe is not only is he slowly rising up the boards, but he got invited to Green Bay to be there in the green room. That tells you something. You don't invite someone that far out in the projections to come there and sit and be on the cameras like, where am I going to get picked? I think it's Jalen Milroe will be the surprise pick of the draft. All right, any final thoughts? I know, Paul, just a fan. Are you off this week?
No, I've got to get to work. I've got work tomorrow, unfortunately.
When's your spring break?
No, I'm a software engineer.
I thought you were a teacher.
No, my father was a teacher. Everybody in my family's a teacher except me. But I'm a software engineer, so I have this whole gainful employment thing that I have to do.
Again, your insight on the NAL was tremendous before.
Tremendous.
I'm sure even next week, I'm sure there's still more to be discussed because we're not sure what's happening yet, right? We're getting there, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So what did we spend? Not to interrupt you, what did we spend on NIL? 40 minutes today, maybe 50 minutes.
Least 45,
right?
Yeah.
45. That's 8 times the amount that WSOU spent on NIL. All basketball. Sorry, but that's true. That's true. I mean, come on.
Nicole, look at our screen. Nicole, look at our screen now. See where I have above Hall. See where it says supported by Surge.
Yeah.
And it says Hall Hoops and Happenings. See how there's a whole blank space right above Hoops. Do you see that little blank little area? That should be an NIL friendly show.
That's right. That's right. Ridiculous. We got to get Jeff Kovacs on here. Jeff, please. I linked you. I did everything. Please, come on. We will let you speak about anything NIL.
Chris Jones, any final thoughts not concerning your mom and dad and Hooters?
No, that's no side conversation for me behind the scenes. I'll figure that out. But no, I'm very excited for the NFL draft tomorrow. Football's my biggest thing, so I'm ready to sit down for a good few hours and watch that entire thing. I'm also someone that watches every single round of the draft, so these next few days are going to be exciting for me.
And by the way, I mentioned this before to even Duncan, Nick Morgan, Stack Monster, everybody behind the scenes, everybody in Aquinas. If you see me doing a show on Facebook the next couple of days, you want to pop on and talk football, let me know. You can come on. Football, I think, is the best sport in the world and the best sport to talk about. And
what are you guys going to eat? What are you guys going to eat during Domino's? Does Domino's go with the draft? Order some Domino's? No?
See, I'm a big, no matter what, I will praise Chipotle for as long as I live. So,
okay.
I would get that no matter what day it is. So we'll
Okay.
see. Honestly, it's a game time decision, I'll say.
Unfortunately, I'm at the resort tomorrow for the weekend. I got to go up tomorrow morning, my new job up there and everything. And so I'm thinking, I'm trying to get myself in shape for the summer. I got a big birthday coming up next month where I qualify for senior housing. And so I think maybe a nice big bag of Doritos and Diet Coke tomorrow during the draft. If I'm not on the air doing every analyzing every pick. Nick from Milburn, final thoughts.
Just to go back on something, we were talking about concerts, and I don't know if I'd want to be at this concert, but one of the most infamous concerts, Paul, do you remember the Stones at Altamont Speedway?
Yes.
So
I don't remember it.
So Mick Jagger, for some reason, decides to hire the Hells Angels as his security. Swear to God. During halfway through Sympathy Through the Devil, a scuffle breaks out, and Mick goes, "Who's fighting and why?" as Hell's Angels stab some guy. So it was like insane. And there's been a big documentary on 13 about the Stones at Altamont.
Yes.
By the way, Nick, I
anybody
saw
who
the
knows.
Stones a couple years ago.
Yes.
Go ahead, Bobby.
No, I was just saying I saw the Stones a couple years ago. Not last year's tour. The one before that with Charlie Watts still alive, and it's just amazing to see these musicians who you grew up with, who are almost 80 years old now, running across the stage like they were, teenagers, and musically perfect.
Yes.
With their sound.
Well, Nick, to your point, the last verse of American Pie is pretty much all about Altamont, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
Don Henley.
I gotta listen to it.
Yeah, listen to the words. And
What song? What song?
American Pie, Don Henley song.
Don McLean.
Don McLean.
Don McLean. I'm sorry, my fault. That
I
was
do love Don Henley though.
Yes, that was a horrifying thing to say. To confuse Don McLean and Don Henley, that's you can't be doing that.
No.
But,
By the way, that's a whole show. That's a whole show in itself. Dissecting American Pie.
Yes.
American Pie.
American that song has a meaning behind it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
But the last verse is about Altamont. The last question thing for us, and I'm going to think about this for our show next week with Coach Boz is, last week we talked about someone brought up that Gino Auriemma had never coached the men's game. And I've been thinking about that. And I realized that no one has ever said, well, how would Rick Pitino do as a women's coach?
Ooh.
We've never really, there's always this idea that it's harder to coach the men. I don't know that that's true. And I'd like to get Coach Boz's perspective on recruiting, on, the fact that there are fewer blue chip players in the women's game. How do you compete to get them? I think there's a lot of questions about, how you go about running a program in terms of, finding players, depth and the recruiting and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be interested if we move past just Seton Hall and talk a little bit about the state of the women's game and how he sees it. I think that he'd have a lot of great insights.
By the way, Paul, if Rick Pitino ever became a coach of a women's team, they better resurrect Johnny Cochran to be their legal, you know what I'm talking about.
No, I know exactly what you're. Yeah, he'd have to hire like 5 or 6 people just to stand around him. Yeah. Again, this is a family show. We probably don't need to wander into this space either.
My final thoughts, like I said, looking forward to. Oh, by the way, I'm a big Notre Dame guy, and Steve Angeli, who's from not far from here with the Bergen Catholic, about 15 minutes from where I am right now, just signed with Syracuse today. So I'm pretty excited for him to become a starting quarterback again and see what he can do. Actually, DJ'd their whole win against Don Bosco at MetLife Stadium in 20-degree weather, and to see him, I went to Notre Dame a couple weeks ago, years ago for my first game, and he played. And good luck for Steve Angeli on his new, hopefully starting quarterback for Syracuse next year. And like I said, I'll be on the air on and off all weekend, breaking down on TikTok and whatnot, breaking down the NFL draft. If anybody wants to join me, feel free to. And last
Bobby,
but not
quick
least,
quick DJ question.
yo,
When did and this I thought of this at my daughter Jess's wedding. When did Mr. Brightside become like such an amazing DJ wedding song?
Late 90s.
Late 90s? Oh wow, am I old?
Well, when it came out that year, I was a big Killers fan. You know, they were from Vegas, and I actually hung out at a studio where they would come every so often. I never met them, but they were legends in Vegas to just pop in, like kind of like Springsteen does,
Right,
in the Jersey Shore in the summer. So I thought the first song I think was better. Somebody, whatever. I forgot the name of the song is. Anyway, Mr. Brightside has just become like this anthem.
Yep.
right.
Where I only play at certain times. If I have a big crowd and I know they go nuts for it, I'll play
Right.
it when I expect it, and they blow the roof off.
Right.
Yeah, it just kind of grew on people, and you kind of pair that with Blink 182. Again, I'm talking about the big Blink 182 song, and they go neck to neck, same speeds and the whole 9 yards, and it just makes for a great show. But yeah, that's been growing for years now. I think it's one of those songs that's going to go on forever as a huge party song.
You know what's really funny? When I had I think it was the father-daughter dance in high school, the DJ played Mr. Brightside when everyone was getting their food. It was yes.
That's not a very good DJ.
Worst. People were literally running back to their seats to get onto the dance floor for that. It was so bad.
Wow.
You do not play Mr. Brightside during that point. Like it's like common knowledge. You don't do that.
Like people will ask for it during my sets, and I'll play it. But when I have a packed crowd and everybody's drinking, having a great time, that's when you play it, because everybody just goes nuts. Yeah, and I got a couple of songs I play after that that kind of go in succession. But yeah, that's a great song.
Yep. All
right, Nick, take it away. You're the final as always. You're the last one.
I'm going to use my time to promote our lovely Facebook group. Invite your pirate friends, alumni, and fans to join the largest and best shoe pirates group on Facebook, featuring past pirate profiles from our student volunteer, Isaiah Williams. We also have direct posts from media members such as Jerry Carino, the Asbury Park Press, Jaden Daly, and the Daily Dose of Hoops, Bobby Blackjack Garente, and Surge Sports, which hosts our lovely shows here, Matt Lazinski, and Brian De Novelis. We also have our group-exclusive live show supported by Surge Sports and Entertainment, including the Coach Boz show, which hopefully we get Coach Boz on next week. That would be amazing. The Pirates pregame show, which will resume once the season starts, and our lovely midweek show, which we are on right now, Hall Hoops and Happenings. And with that, good night, everyone, and go Hall.
Hey, real quick, I got one more announcement. I have a new show coming on Surge Sports. If you're a college basketball fan, it's the Coach Gottfried Show. Coach Mark Gottfried, who played and coached a lot of years for Mark Gottfried. I'm sorry, coached a lot of years at Alabama. Very well known and respected college basketball voice, coach player, has a new show coming on Surge next week, and his first guest I think is Colin Coward.
Whoa!
So we have a huge show coming on if you're a college basketball fan. So I'll be posting more about that this weekend. Again, Nicole,
Bobby, post that in the Facebook group too.
I will.
Like, you could advertise that.
I think it's Colin Coward is his first guest. He's had like Bruce Pearl on, who was in the Final Four, a few weeks ago. Yeah, I'll post that in the group. Great.
Okay, thank you guys. See you next week.
Thanks,
Have a great night. Go Pirates.
Go Pirates.